Yeah, or maybe for a selective collective, like they say, we're talking
Yeah,
about us, but us is not everyone. So
right.
and maybe sometimes people use words, but they do not really mean everyone. And yeah, I think that's a big problem, and that is something that I'm not really happy with. And I think for me, coexistence has always been also.
In a world of hyperconnectivity, we seem more disconnected than ever from the living world. A world of natural wonder that has its own systems in place and masters the art of coexistence. We, humans, have placed ourselves outside this way of living, but it can teach us the biggest lessons and leave us in awe. What happens when we reconnect to the nature from which we arose, move in sync with it, and coexist in a symbiotic way? Will we make other decisions? Will it change the way we perceive ourselves? What and who can teach us if we are willing to listen? We invite you to be open and amazed by today's guests as they offer a glimpse into their art of coexistence. Today I am joined by a very special guest. If you've listened to this podcast before, you've encountered his work already. Our wonderful signature intro music and other soundscapes throughout the episodes are all of his work. His name is Mark Oomen, and as you might expect, he's a musician, but actually, he's a bit of a jack of all trades because he's also a teacher and someone that organizes all sorts of events, projects, meetups, etc. Let's see what all of these activities have in common and how they relate to the art of coexistence. Hello, Mark. How fun that we can have a chat with you today.
Hey, Daphne. Hello. Thank you for having me. Also excited to talk with you, to be part of this episode.
And you're already part of the podcast actually already, so
wow.
we're in a perfect double meet. My first question to you, because I was already mentioning that you are a bit of an all trades personality. Can you tell me a little bit about your day? What did your day today look like?
Started off being with my son, my 1.5-year-old son. I went visiting a friend who's about to give birth to her first child. And then I went I live in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and then I went to the library to have a couple of meetings with some colleagues from a foundation which I set up myself with some other people, which is called Afro Grooves. And that's, one of my main activities is to organize, promote West African music with a large community of West African musicians and also non-West African musicians in Amsterdam.
Excellent. Was this the only project that you worked on today, or was there another meeting for another project? Tell me.
So my days are always, it's really scattered. So sometimes I have 4 or 5 different projects and I need to go from A to B to C to D to B to C to A, and then I'm back home, and sometimes the day lasts 20 hours, but it's all exciting and it really fits how I spend my time and to do what I love.
And so I mentioned in my introduction that I'm curious how all of these relate to each other. So many of the projects that you do have music as a basis, but maybe you can tell me a little bit first about Afro Grooves, what it is that you do with this foundation.
So actually, Afro Grooves, it started off as a jam session, a monthly jam session in Amsterdam, during which people, just professional musicians, but also amateur musicians, improvise new music on the spot. A lot of the stuff that I do is based on coincidence, an opportunity that came across my path, which I then just grabbed, and then I start to do something. So Afro Grooves, for example, started for me because I was asked to host this very jam session in the summer of 2017 in Amsterdam. And it was just me and 4 other people just jamming, and no other people joining, just people enjoying their drink on a terrace, having a beer, and then just a couple of friends just playing music. But then I was asked to do it again, and then I started thinking about, hey, what can we do with this? And then fast forward 5 years later, it's a foundation with more than 50 events per year and a team, and we hosted festivals and workshops and research projects. And that's just because that happened
Yeah, that's what you say, but I do like to argue that these things don't just happen. It might also be because you're very open for something to happen, um,
True.
and with this, it also sounds like making it a foundation. Apparently, there's something that you really want to do with it. Like you saw it as an opportunity to make an impact on a different level, maybe. So maybe you can explain what it is that you hope to reach with this foundation. What is it that you
Yeah. So that's a correct conclusion you just draw, is that the fact that we turn it into a foundation, something that started off as a quite informal gathering every Sunday every first Sunday afternoon in Amsterdam. At one point, we just noticed that there was a community that grew. The same people that came back every month, and the thing they all told us was, we really enjoyed the openness, the atmosphere, the feeling of being welcomed, the feeling of being part of something that is not. You do not necessarily need to be a professional musician. You do not need to be hip. It doesn't cost money because it's free. It's based on donation or just free. And the music that we play is Afrobeat, is West African music, which is music that is pioneered by Fela Kuti, a musician who pioneered the music genre of Afrobeat in Nigeria in the 1970s, which is a musical genre that has to be played with lots of musicians, like minimum of 8 and sometimes up to 14 musicians at the same time, playing a groove in which every musician has their own part of a small part of a groove. So it's really needed that people listen very carefully to each other. They do not take too much space themselves, but leave space open for other people, and building something together, improvising, giving solos. But it's also music that's really political. He was really talking also about colonial past, about Africa being divided into lots of crazy rectangular and straight borders.
Yeah, I want to say, but before you get into the political part, I'm also actually very interested in what you mentioned just before that, in how people enter that space of making music together. Like, what do you see happening there when people need to not take too much space? They need to listen to each other. What is this trait that this music gives people as well, in maybe how they socialize or how they act or behave in the world? What do you see happening there?
Yeah, good question. I think what for me made a lot of difference was that I did attend some jam sessions before that, but not that many, because all of the jam sessions I went to were not really my cup of tea, because there was a very dominant jam session leader, a lot of ego, a lot of showing off. And that's something, when I was asked to do something, to host a jam session, that I really did not want to do that. So it was like, okay, everyone should be able to play, even if you're not professional. If you just want to try, if you feel the music, you want to sing, please come on the stage. So I was really actively reaching out to people in the room, like, hey, do you want to play? So nice that you're here. Just engaging with the people, and then guiding it. Like, okay, maybe just helping someone who feels lost, because it's like, I don't know how to improvise. What should I do? Just give them some tips. I'll play along with that instrument, or just play this chord, and to guide it a little bit in a gentle, constructive, supportive way. And I really felt that made a lot of difference, and that was the reason that people also kept coming back.
And do you feel that what happens in that musical space at that moment, is that something that they, or you maybe yourself, maybe you can talk about your personal experience first, that you take with you when you go home, or how you show up at work? Or I'm curious, because it sounds like a very, very much like a social activity that might actually change something in other behaviors as well.
I wish to believe so, yes, and I do know that it's the case. I think it's a very nourishing activity, because it's social. You are among people. You're having a good time. You're making something. You're creating art. You're listening to each other, supporting each other, applauding each other. It's also a space where people are meeting each other, people who would not necessarily meet each other on a daily basis, or not at all, even people from different cultural backgrounds, socio-economical backgrounds, different ages. We've had like a selection of people, a group on the stage at one point, like maybe a 14-year-old teenager with a 60 plus old person. And I think that's the beauty of it. And when you go to some other events, it's like, oh no, it's only for like hip 20, 30, 35 max, whatever, something like this.
Is this the mission of the foundation as well, or do you have a different type of mission? Is it to bring people together, or is it to be more inclusive? I'm drawing my own conclusions now, but maybe you have a mission ready.
That's what you say is really important. So bringing people together, so forming connections, and then through the West African music, the Afrobeat as a red thread, using that music, the artistic aspects, but also the social, political aspects of it, to have a starting point, to bring people together, to learn about each other, and to hopefully, add something to the world.
Do you feel that West African music is better equipped for that than other types of music? Is there a reason that you went in this direction at some point in your life?
I think I was just drawn to the music because of the group and the hypnotizing quality of the music. Because once there's a groove which really locks and interlocks with musicians and musical parts that really complement one another, then you get in a kind of a trance. And some of the songs also, they last for 15 to 20 or maybe even 25 minutes per song. It's not a classical concerto with 3 or 4 movements. It's just one piece. It's one groove. It's one chord even, or 2 chords. But still, it takes your attention. And then I think also because the grooves can really last long if well played, people can take the time to also dance on it, to really find their place in it, not to worry too much about chord progressions or changes, and then have fun and experiment, play solo, sing a little bit. It's just the music really, it offers so much for the art of the jam session, really a lot. Yeah.
How do people find their place in a piece of music?
Listening, that's the most important part. So just listen. Where's the space? Is there in what frequency, in what kind of rhythmical part is there a space? Also just try to copy one another sometimes. But it's a process. For everyone, it's a little bit different. Some people really have a hard time. It's something that you also, I think, you need to learn. Yeah, there's a place for everyone.
But I can imagine that it's also fast learning if it's in such a large group, that you can look how others do it and that you can copy how others do it. Maybe is that what also happens, that people constantly look at each other and learn from each other?
100%, yes, 100%.
So what are the types of events that you then organize with this foundation? You have jam sessions, but I'm sure that there's lots more, because otherwise it would just be a jam session still, but it's become more than that.
Yeah, so one of the reasons we turned the informal jam session into a foundation was that we did want to develop projects that went beyond the single event per month and beyond the no strings attached jam session. So then we started to also do we always already did gigs, but then do performances, concerts on a more serious level. Also to host workshops on specific topics, specific rhythms or regions or cultures, or historical episodes, jam sessions, workshops, gigs, festivals, research. Yeah, we do a lot of different things. But
and is this still then with a West African philosophy in mind as well, or how much is that ingrained in what you do? And what is that philosophy, or what is your philosophy, maybe?
I think with the group of people that we work, it's now a team. We're a team of 6 or 7 people. Sorry. The kids I teach like 6, 7 is like 6, 7. It's horrible. I'm sorry. I'm a teacher as well.
Yeah.
I teach children a lot, so I cannot help it. But so with 7 people, we're a team, and I think it's not per se West African philosophy because that doesn't exist as such. It's also West African music is a very broad term.
Yeah.
If I would need to, it's just I think we took a kind of the region because that's where a lot of groovy music originated. So Afrobeat, which has its roots in 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 West African like Mandinka music, traditional music, but in a lot of different also Yoruba rhythms, in funk and jazz. Um,
Can you do a rhythm for me? I
well,
don't know all these different types of rhythms.
and the thing of Afrobeat is that it's very repetitive. So, for example, there would be just one person who would play on every beat, like chuck, 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 chuck. Then someone who would play after the beat, and then 2 notes like chuck, tucka, chuck, tucka, chuck, tucka, chuck, tucka, chuck, and that already gives a kind of rhythm. Then a guitar would do like chuck, like tuck, tucka, tuck, tuck, tucka, tuck, tucka, tuck, tuck, tucka. And then with all these rhythms combined, it's a kind of I don't know, a maze or just
an interwoven piece
with in which everyone has their own place, which is crazy, and I really love that a lot. But to come back to the point of African philosophy, African music, so we play Afrobeat, we play high life, we've played with musicians from Sudan, from South Africa, also from the diaspora, so Afro-Brazilian music, also music from Suriname, from Curaçao. So it's quite broad, but I think when it comes to the philosophy, I think we do center social justice as a very important thing to strive for a better world, which could fall apart in topics like, something that we do, what I talked about before is trying to have people from different generations, people from different economical backgrounds, different cultures, try to bring people together, not go into the train of capitalism, trying to earn, because it's not about making profit. We're not about making profit, which is not a mission we have. So sometimes when we come to partners, a venue or whatever, an organization, it's like, hey, your jam sessions are for free, but why and how and people just their brain freezes. It's like the kind of short circuit, but you're not about making money, so and because the music industry is also it's a sick industry. It's really, there's so much money going on in the music industry, and also artists not really get paid that well unless you're a really big artist. But I think that we also try to, in how we organize the events, we try to have that in our minds, but also in giving platform to musicians that have a story to tell, stories about oppression, about a fight against oppression, story about historical oppression. It's quite broad, but I think everyone in our team shares more or less the same bandwidth of this philosophy. And
so it sounds broad, but at the same time, it's also very much about social economical situations, maybe like people from different backgrounds in wherever they're from within the society, or maybe then intercultural as well, wherever they're from in the world. Obviously, you're in Amsterdam, so there's a lot of different cultures living, which is probably super interesting for the foundation to bring people together. And I'm also thinking, before you were already going a little bit political, but it sounds, with these topics of suppression that you mentioned, that there is definitely also a political side to it for you.
Yeah.
How deep do you go with that in the music or in the sessions that you do, or is this for the workshops that you organize?
This is really a good question, which I think even makes more clear what we do and how we do it. So it boils down to both the music we play, the choice for the musical pieces, that's one. And the second thing is the projects we develop. So about the music, so for example, we have a playlist, like a repertoire. It's Fela Kuti, it's Ebo Taylor, it's Antibalas, it's Bishika Setenta. It's a lot of Afrobeat bands
It's a lot of names I don't know, but I love it.
That's no problem. So which is like artists from the 70s, 80s, so the pioneers of the genres we play, and then the modern bands that take that as an inspiration and take it into maybe a more modern version of that. A lot of the music is really political. It talks, so the lyrics is literally it's against abuse of power. It's against capitalism. It's about liberation. It's about it's about a lot of different topics which are very political and very social justice oriented. That's one. The other thing is, okay, I told you about the different projects we do, gigs, jam sessions, workshops. So one of the organizations we work with a lot is called Here to Support, which is an organization in Amsterdam, which is partly led by and meant for undocumented people. So people that really do not fall anywhere in the system, who are invisible for the system, who do not have right for education, no right for healthcare, no rights at all. And at the moment, also, there is also these ideas for new laws which criminalize the aid to undocumented people. And in the whole of Europe, there's a far right current, really anti-immigration. Here to Support is really an organization that tries to support people, work with them, for them, and also to make sure that the humanity is brought back into the discussion, because we're talking about humans, which is sometimes forgotten. You know, it's like people are being portrayed as animals, as terrorists, as predators, whatever. These are people who in a lot of cases are from regions with conflict regions that had a really good reason to flee their country.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of sexual orientation, because of war, because of famine or whatever. So the fact that we work with them, we have 2 projects coming up with them in the next 2 years. One is in Amsterdam, one is in Paris and Brussels and Amsterdam. The one in Amsterdam is also with an alliance with more organizations who work on the intersection between art and social justice. So, for example, the Pan Asian Collective about Asian representation, queer collectives. So we try also, and the people we work with, the music we play, the way we program our events by inviting people that are really political. So, for example, we did a Palestine fundraiser a while ago, and then we invited Loki, a rapper from the UK, who was really outspoken, really a spokesperson for Palestine Action in the UK, who is really a huge name, who is like he has 500,000 followers. We played 4 gigs with him in the span of 5 years, I think. And just to work with him, to give him a platform which he doesn't get all the time, even not in the UK, because he's being boycotted and blacklisted, etc.
Okay.
So I think this.
You definitely give, do give a voice to political injustice. Is what you're saying, and that's not something that you do with only your foundation, but you also have partners that you do that with.
Yeah.
And Here to Support, for example, I also sense that it's very much with them about connection, because you were saying we're really missing the humane aspect of it. There's still people that we're talking about coming from a horrible situation in almost all cases. How can we find connection again with each other, from human to human, and trying to understand each other? Is this what music is to you? Is that is a way to connect?
Yeah, it's a means. It's that connection is also something that I try to find myself without music, or which I try to do in my work, and just talking to people and connecting to people.
Yeah.
But I just find that music is a really good means of both just having fun and relaxing and having a good time, and to nourish your body and soul, but also as a means to tell certain stories, to bring across a message, or also even to reel people in, to take them to as a fish, to take them into something more political.
Oh, people, let us believe in spiritual power.
So, for example, Afrogroups also is the co-founder of the platform Arts of Resistance.
Yep.
And then actually we founded that platform together with Ourcelium, another organization in Amsterdam. And we said that that goal was twofold. So we just wanted to give activists in Amsterdam and the Netherlands a break. Just people who go to demonstrations, who organize a lot, just invite them for a party and have a good time. But also to use music as a way to politicize and make people who are not that politically aware, make them more politically aware. And we really found that was a really good combination, because we were just having a great time. We were just bouncing on epic music and we were having the time of our lives. And it wasn't about nothing. It wasn't just like love songs or about booze or money or whatever. It was about something real, and
there is a message still.
Yeah, and also tribute to all the beautiful protest music and protest art, and that's been made.
Yeah, I do love how with sharing all this, you're actually making my case for calling you a jack of all trades, because you're jumping from one foundation to the other, and then there was this initiative and there's that idea. Do you want to tell a bit more about Arts Resistance, what you're doing with that? Because we're just bridging towards.
Because the podcast is also about nature and the relationship we as humans have towards nature. And I think because I'm a learner, I love to learn, and I know some things, but there's a lot I don't know, and I'm just really eager to learn about.
So it's good to realize that there's still a lot that you don't know.
Yeah,
it's
100%. It's I love to be a learner. So I learned through all these artists we work with. I learned a lot about different practices, different art forms, different stories, different histories, different cultures, and also the partner organization of Arts Resistance, Ourcelium. They work a lot with indigenous communities from all over the world. Yeah, we gave some space to some communities and to artists. We're telling a story about their struggle for the preservation of nature rights, guiding, protecting, the Mother Earth, protecting the rainforest. So also to be aware of when it's about climate justice, for example, sometimes people in the West, they tend to suggest that the struggle for climate justice, the fight for climate justice only started like maybe 10 or 20 years ago, or Extinction Rebellion, or they name Greta Thunberg. But this is in fact something that has been done always by indigenous communities all over the world. Yeah, also to fight colonialism and to preserve what they have done and still have for thousands of years, which is to have a basic, really respectful, reciprocal connection with nature and philosophies about nature, and I think that is something that I, at least a perspective, because I know some things about some communities, but I still do not know much about it, in terms of details. Mm-hmm. But just a general perspective of taking into account those stories and to be able to listen to those stories, because those are also the communities that are under threat the most by multinational companies like Shell and like just big oil companies or tech companies that just take away large parts of rainforest, wiping away entire communities still, just like they did 300-400 years ago.
And how and in what way can Art Resistance support this, let's call it a fight?
Giving a platform for people to tell their stories, use the music to get people in and to make them aware of certain issues, challenges they might not be aware of, living their comfortable lives in the urban regions of the Netherlands, for example. Yeah.
You mentioned, you just said a very relevant word, I think, which was reciprocity, you mentioned, which means giving back. giving back to nature as well. Like what we're taking, we should also give back or give back in other ways. How do you see this quality or maybe this core value of yours? How do you see that dribbling down in the work that you do, maybe as a teacher?
Yeah, I think that's really important, because to teach is to give something, of course. So I love to learn. I'm still taking classes in music, in languages, in everything that is there to be learned. If I have time, I want to learn. But I love to teach because you just can give something back and make sure that knowledge or ways of thinking or questions that are worth asking are being transferred to next generations.
What do you teach? And who do you teach?
Okay, do you have a minute? So
Yeah.
I teach a lot. I teach music, for example, on an elementary school to toddlers and preschoolers. So really the cutie, smally ones.
That's fun.
From 2 to 2, 3, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and that's just music, like songs and rhythms, and just having fun, enjoying music, and learning some basics.
Do you already see with a group of people that young, so with toddlers, do you already see some similarities as you also see when you're organizing your jam evenings, for example, with the foundation? Well, like, is there the idea of giving each other space? Is a toddler able to give another person space, or what do you see happening?
Not at all. Not at all. No. You already know the answer. I see it in your face. Yeah. But no, but it's, I think, just the joy of playing music. I think that's important, because a lot of the kids I teach, I know for a fact that they do not have a musical upbringing. There's no money for an instrument, or music has a kind of a different or difficult status in their upbringing. So that's one. But also it's also, so I really believe in music, to have music around you, live music, playing, singing, making music together. So that's really important. And it works for me also, right? So I just love the energy of the groups, of the kids, all with their own characters. It's like they're so young, but they have so much character. It's crazy.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And then there's other groups that you teach.
Yeah. So the next thing I do is I give workshops in the Muziekgebouw aan het IJ, which is a venue for classical or experimental classical music or electronic music in Amsterdam. And over there, I teach all different groups. It's elementary schools, high schools, adults, businesses, companies, whatever. But there I work with a specific selection of instruments. They have synthesizers mainly, and there's instruments that are made specifically for the Muziekgebouw. It's a different way of making music. It's also really creative. People do not need to have any technique to play music. Just having fun and showing people that everyone deserves to make music, that everyone is. I believe people always say, do you make music? Do you like me? I'm not a musician. I cannot make music. And I'm like, music is for everyone. Even if you think it's not for you, I think everyone should have the possibility to make music. If you really just do not like to do it, that's fine, of course, if you're more into sports or drawing or whatever. But I do believe that everyone has this quality inside themselves to give something and to shape into a musical form, and to make music together just as a group process is just very interesting and a lot of fun, and you learn a lot from making music together. Is there something universal in making music? So even for a person that doesn't call themselves a musician, do you think that there is something that happens to you when you actually create music yourself that's universal, or is it different for everyone? I think like brain scientists would probably have a theory on what happens inside your brain. I really don't know. I'm not a brain scientist, but I do know that I'm not really a big fan of trying to universalize things, because also music is for a lot of people. It's also, especially in specific parts of the world where music is just part of their lives, period. It's just what is there, exactly. And no questions asked from a very young age. Then it's just cultural, or it's religious, or it's within certain traditions and rites, and
and
rituals,
ceremonies and
ceremonies,
things. Yeah, exactly.
yes. And so then people really do not make music because for fun. It's just because they feel it as a task or just something they need to do, which also has a beauty in it. But that's something that for me I can never fully grasp that because that's not my reality. For example.
No. And at the same time, it is maybe something that it's engaging at all times or something. So even if it's for a ceremony, then it's to engage you in that ceremony. If it's making music with your friends, you're being very engaged with your friends at that moment. So it might be something very different. And then there's all sorts of music, of course, but there is something that is maybe with music that it's connecting.
One thing is really, it's just a very funny thought is that music, someone asked it to me recently, I think it was my wife, was like, oh, you spend so much time in music, but actually you make music and then the sound is gone, it disappears. So, and for her, she's not she likes music and maybe she plays a little bit from time to time or tries out some stuff, but for her as someone who is not a musician in the first place, it's like, I really do not understand why. It's just, if you're a painter, you make a painting and it's a physical object. If you are a sculptor, or
it's tangible. A painting is tangible.
Yes.
Tangible. Sculpture is. Music isn't something you can grasp with your hands. Yeah.
It's just gone. It's on the moment itself. There it is, and then it's gone. And so
yeah. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, you need to just be present in the moment and enjoy it, and it can make you feel so many things and do so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I also like that word for it. Presence is a very big word. And I can imagine that also with the groups of people that you work with, that it's very much for them to be present at that time.
Yeah.
When you're doing something with them. I'm thinking maybe this is also an interesting bridge to another project that you have, the Demystifiers.
Yeah, I like your bridge. I like your bridges. Your bridges are good.
Because this is it's a slightly different project, but I think it's a beautiful one that also shows what music can do for people in their behaviors, but also in their social skills, maybe even. Explain what you do with the Demystifiers, please.
Yeah, so I was asked, I think about 4 years ago, to join a project to work for a foundation with the name The Mystifiers, which is a foundation that tries to bridge a lot of gaps and to contest some ideas and definitions and conceptions. I think in the root it's about also to work with specific groups of people with psychosocial problems, people with maybe a history in substance abuse or with a homeless history, and anything, combinations or variations on that theme. Those people, they come into the Mystifiers through well-being organizations. And then what we do is that we have a couple of bands, smaller bands, and each band consists of 4 or 5 participants that came in through well-being organizations, to students from music academies, and then a band coach. And then the band coach, I am one of the band coaches. And then what we do is we have a half a year to make a repertoire of 30 minutes, 4, 5, 6 songs, and to record a song professionally, 1 song in the studio, and to do a showcase in a big music hall like Paradiso or Tolhuistuin.
Oh, that's amazing for people that are not used to it, to then have an actual stage.
Yeah. Well, some people, they used to be really great musicians and professional musicians, but they just had some bad luck and they took some different path than they might have imagined, and then they now try to get some grip.
Listen to your heart is the answer that we believe.
I think that maybe this sums it up then as well, is that with this project, you're supporting people to get their grip back on their own lives. Well, how so? What does that look like? How do you see something changing when they start making music or when they put themselves on stage?
Yeah. Just, I can give you loads of examples, but try it.
Give me one. Just one.
Yeah. So but I think in general, it's also people, having some consistency in having to show up every 2 weeks on a Friday from 11 till 2. The idea to make original music, so it's like challenging creatively. You do not need to play covers. You're making something new with a band, and the band changes every year. Some musicians stay, some leave. There are some variations between the bands, and then we just jam, and then we arrange the songs. I have a part in also trying to flesh out the recordings and make suggestions for arrangements. But also it's a very like a democratic process. People have a lot of influence in what's it going to sound like and what's it going to look like on the stage, who's going to do what. But for example, one guy, had really like money problems, and he had a lot of debts. And then at one point he came in, he told me like, oh, that's history. And he had a job, and he was just in a couple of, in some years, I saw him just the development and the joy. And also he was a rapper, but he also wanted really to play guitar. And so I gave him the opportunity to learn some chords and to play guitar live on a stage for the first time in his life.
Oh, that's
That was
amazing.
really, and just the combination of people, the music, it's and it just feels like one big family. And there's also backlashes as well, because I know, not backlashes, but like people sometimes they drop out as well, or they have a hard time, or just it's really rough. You see the rough side of life. But it's a big family, and it's really just a beautiful. It's also for me. This is also, it came on my path it was so clear that it was meant for me also. There was a reason for me to be part of this, because you can make music for yourself as an artist and brand yourself and try to, gather followers online or sell tickets and be popular. But at one point in my life, I think I had those thoughts as well. I played in bands and I tried to grow a band or whatever. But at one point I was like, oh, but music it's so powerful. It can do so much more, and it should do so much more. And I have a role in that as well. So that felt like a calling for myself. So this, just like Afro Grooves, this foundation is just something like, okay, it makes sense. It's art, it's music, but it's also social. And that combination of art and social is just, it's just extremely powerful. It's just, and fun.
Yeah. And this is also you being reciprocal yourself. This is also then your way of, the music, but then you can help others taking their next step in society maybe again. And with this specific project, it also really sounds like you're giving them maybe accountability to show up again, not only for others, but then by showing up for others, you might also start showing up for yourself again. I can imagine that that's maybe something that happens.
100%, yes.
And then giving them agency again as well by even giving them an instrument, going up the stage, and then having to perform. So you can't bail from that. I think that's really, that's probably, I can imagine that that's very strong, that you can really help people find some footing again.
Yeah, and also just connection, just seeing each other and then supporting each other, just being there, just being present, and
Yeah, beautiful. I am aware that there's a lot more projects and examples that you can give us, but I had a question that I'm also curious about, because we are now talking on the art of coexistence. What does that mean to you? Like the artful part, I think we understand, because music is your art, but maybe you have a different opinion still. But how do you see the art of coexisting? What is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, when I have to explain it for myself, I would say that at least in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, or in the West, quote unquote, the West in general, people are very individualized, I think. So that's one thing that comes to mind. Also, if coexistence,
and that's not a good thing. I'm hearing.
No, that's not a good thing. No, of course not. If people put themselves in before the rest of the world, that's a recipe for disaster. Climate breakdown is the result of people thinking about themselves in the first place. Just an example, but a very important example, of course, because people are destroying the earth because they want the best from themselves and for their families and for their kin, but not for the world at large, or not for someone they don't know.
Not for the collective.
Yeah, or maybe for a selective collective. Like they say, we're talking about us, but us is not everyone. So and maybe sometimes people use words, but they do not really mean everyone. And yeah, I think that is that's a big problem, and that is something that I'm not really happy with. And I think for me, coexistence has always been also, for me, it was never a problem because I love to meet people and love to talk to people and to strangers. And that's what I saw my dad do as when I was a boy. He just talked to everyone. So that's what I did when I grew up, is just to talk to everyone and to be interested in everyone. Coexistence is for me just to engage with people or just talk to people you don't know and learn, and then having the task for yourself, especially for me, specifically for me as a parent of 2 kids, for me to work on some topics regarding social justice, oppression, fighting against oppression, against discrimination, racism, for climate justice, to the extent that it's possible in my own life. Of course, I'm also pragmatical, so I'm not the best boy in class, so to say, but just to strive for a better world, which is a better world for my kids. And a better world for my kids does not mean that only they will be able to study or buy a house or whatever. No, I think that's a problem. You should be striving for a world in which people will get those same opportunities, and they do not have the same opportunities. So that's a false meritocratic thought that people, hey, if you work hard enough, then you'll get there. I don't believe in that. Yeah.
Well, and also it's maybe not just for your kids and their jobs, but also for everything that comes after, right? So it's leaving a better world, but having a more long-term vision maybe in how you, and what's needed for that.
100%, yeah.
We always ask our guests to give us a souvenir at the end of the conversation. So if someone listens to our conversation, what would you like to give them as a souvenir? That can be something that they can do, a practice that they can build in their routines, or an activity, or maybe it's a book, or maybe it's a musician, something. What would you give us from this journey that we just went through?
Yeah. Wait, can it be two things, or should it be just one?
Sure.
Okay, just a thing to do is
don't say make music, because that's
talk to strangers. It's really a lot of people are like, why should I talk to someone I don't know? It's the greatest thing on earth, just to walk on or in public transport, to have that mindset or worldview that everyone is worth talking to, and that you might have certain thoughts of people, certain ideas, like preconceived ideas, judgments, like for certain people, and prove, let yourself be proven wrong, or learn something. So that's something you can really just do every day.
Be very open to be open to others. I
think we also talked about the work of Esther Stanford Jose. And she's a reparationist, UK-based reparationist. Her work goes really too far and I'm not well equipped to really summarize what she does, but she does talk about reparations, not necessarily
paying back what others took, and this is about colonialism.
And most of the time, it's being defined as a financial reparation, right? Paying, for example, money to the descendants of enslaved people over the world, or specifically for the Netherlands, for people with Surinamese or background, for example, Afro-Surinamese people. Her conception of reparations is so much broader. It goes about restoring the earth to a kind of pre-colonial situation, to the relations people had before colonialism took over and destroyed so much. There's some really great work of hers online, videos, lectures. Esther Stanford, she's amazing.
Is there one specific article or a video that you think we should start with, or not necessarily?
Well, the best is just I got to be lucky to follow one workshop, just with her, like in person with a small group, and then as the workshop proceeded, she started to talk louder and louder, and we got more like engaged, because to be in her presence is just already really amazing, and to hear her stories. But there's a lot of really great lectures and workshops online on YouTube, for example. Yeah.
Wonderful. Esther Stanford Jose.
Check that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for sharing all these projects with us. And I'm super curious to see how many more you will start. And I hope that you will continue everything that you do, of course. We'll put a few links in our show notes of all these amazing projects that you run. Is there anything else that you want to send a message into this world, or maybe send a rhythm into this world?
Boom.
Wonderful.
That was
it. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well for having me. It was really nice to talk.
Thank you for listening to The Art of Coexistence, a podcast produced by Ourcelium Publishers. Editing by Axel Frühmann, music by Mark Oomen, and hosted by me, Daphne Frühmann. Find us on your favorite podcast app and give us a follow, like, subscribe, and/or share, and we'll see you again soon.